Receipts from the dry cleaners, a coupon to the barber's, a list of overdue library books. He's had the complete single mother checked out for 3 months? Maybe they didn't have the complete single father.
My dearest Robert, I have to leave now. I'm very sorry it's come to this, but I can't stay any longer. Before I leave, though, I'm writing you this note because there are a few things I want you to know. I have loved you as my husband for a long time, and as my first real friend in this world for even longer. I've come to love this town, as strange and restrictive as it is to me, with all its gossiping people and run-down bars and small streets. I love our house and how close we live to the shore, and how you've let me lead my own life at Willow Creek Park. Most of all, I love our children. Lina, so spirited and caring, and so observant of everything around her. Violet, always sensitive and musical and such a good listener, even when she pretends not to be. Gus, our baby boy, and so ferociously intelligent that I'm afraid for him sometimes. And Mel, always excitable and full of infectious enthusiasm. Do you remember when Lina was just born and we were so afraid we would drop her that we carried her like a piece of china? I do. I wish we could go back to that time. But our lives are different now, and I know things about you, about me, that I didn't know then. We can't go back, and I can't stay. I'll miss the children terribly, but I know you'll take care of them. Please don't think all these years have meant nothing to me. In fact, I don't think two people could have been happier than we have been. Vivian. Okay. Wonder what she found out about him. Well, he's ambitious is one thing. Might be an issue. Strags, bottle, nothing. Then I can't go underneath this. Nope. Oh, okay. Exit. So, what do we still have to do? Need to find the rest of the journal. Ask Gus about Bernadette Simmons. Alright. Return Dad's phone. Ask Violet. Okay, we can start with Gus. Dad isn't home from work yet, so let's go this. Alright, I could actually short or fast travel, but
I'll talk to you in a little bit. Hey Gus, got a question for you. Do you know anything about Bernadette Simmons?
Bernadette Simmons. That name sounds familiar, but Can you tell me some more?
She also disappeared without a trace.
Oh, her. Yeah, now I remember. The beach at the park is named after her, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, yeah. I do know a little. I checked a book on Avon County history out of the library last year. Did you know that in 1869, crabs rained out of the sky?
Seriously?
They'd been swept up by a freak tornado, then deposited on the town. The book said that everybody thought it was the apocalypse. Raining blue crabs. Anyway, Bernadette Simmons. Henry Simmons married her after he'd gotten rich and started building tinted gel. He just showed up one day with her and was all, "This is my wife, everybody!" Which was weird because no one could figure out where she was from. You'd think Henry Simmons would marry a Rockefeller cousin or something, but no. He married Bernadette. Apparently, people in Abbott's Landing started thinking that she was a witch from New Orleans because she was so strange, and she had a bunch of miscarriages. Then, she just disappeared. The case was never solved.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
A little, I guess. Why'd you want to know?
I saw Bernadette's name on that sign on the beach while I was out walking earlier.
Yeah, I know the one. You had never been curious enough to look it up before?
I am a busy girl, my darling brother.
But you never... Okay. You're right. You are busy. I'm not, though. So I don't mind being your encyclopedia.
Good. I wouldn't want anybody else to be my encyclopedia. All right. That's all I wanted to know. I'll talk to you in a little bit. I have kind of a weird question. Have you ever heard of a drug called Risperdal?
Oh, so you took a look around the office. Read the journal he keeps on his desk. Pretty fucked up, right? I was waiting for you to do it.
Wait, you know about all this?
Of course. I've been picking the lock for months. There are YouTube videos on how to do it. All you need is a $15 lock picking set from Amazon.
So it was you who picked the lock on that science teacher workroom that one time?
Yeah, that was me. I needed the answers to Mr. Stevens' chemistry quiz he was giving the next day, but I still failed it.
Back to the whole Risperdal thing.
Yeah, it's for schizophrenia. I looked it up.
Wait. You mean Dad has...
Yep.
This whole time, he's been suffering. And none of us even knew it?
I wouldn't say that. We all knew he was suffering, just not from what. And I bet you anything Mom knew. So he probably had at least one person to confide in.
God, I hope so. What is Risperdal, though? I mean, how does it work?
I don't know too much in the grand scheme of things. I'm no doctor, obviously, but I'll tell you what I'm sure of. Risperdal is an antipsychotic. That means it treats symptoms like hearing voices, delusions, hallucinations, scrambled speech. That kind of thing. All kinds of memories started seeming different when I was looking this stuff up. Like, remember when we were little? I was 5, maybe, and you were 6. And Dad wouldn't leave the house for a few days because he said everyone in town could hear his thoughts. That everyone would know what a terrible person he was. Mom finally took him to the doctor. She told us that Dad had a very bad fever and had hallucinated. That's called thought broadcasting, by the way. I read about it.
But what was in Dad's journal? He clearly still believes that. About Mom being some kind of supernatural creature? How could all 18 years of that be a delusion?
I don't know. It would be pretty abnormal from what I've read. Most delusions seem to last anywhere from a week to a year. 18 years. It would be weird. But how else do you explain this? You can't think that that's the truth.
Well, I guess the only explanation that makes sense is that it is an 18-year-old delusion.
I'm not going to say that the Risperdal changes everything about him, but it makes you realize something. He thought our family was entirely different from what it is. Does he think we're swans too? Daddy's little half-bird zoo?
It wouldn't surprise me if he did believe that.
So, what are you gonna do now that you know all this?
I'm going to make sure he gets on the right track. In terms of mental health, I mean.
You're a better person than I am. I just can't care that much. Not after everything else he's done. But before you do that, I want you to have this. It's the key to the chest in his closet. You know, the one where we used to try and pry it open when we played hide and seek. The one Dad got so mad about us touching that he put us in timeout every time he caught us in there.
I remember the one. It was behind that panel. We thought it was a secret hideout.
He dropped this key on the back porch a little more than a year ago. It took me a week to figure out what it went to. God, I was obsessed with finding out what it unlocked. Then I realized. When I looked, I found something in the chest. I showed it to Mom.
What did you find?
It was... You're not gonna believe me. Okay. It was a feather robe. Like the kind Dad described in his diary. Except I don't want you to take that as proof that it's true. It was just a robe. Beautiful, though. So intricate. I put it on before I showed it to Mom. I felt... Well, never mind.
Where is the robe now?
It's gone. Wherever Mom went, I think she took it with her.
How come you didn't tell me this before?
Honestly, I don't know. I could give you some the time wasn't right bullshit. I just didn't know how to say it. It was so strange, what I found.
I'm going to go take a look. Thank you, Vi. This is all a lot to take in, but I'm going to figure it out, I promise you.
I never doubted that for a second.
Okay. Well, one thing about the delusion is that he actually has some kids. And how did he get them with a delusion? That's a little strange. But it does sound like he kind of forced the mom to stay by hiding away her feathers. Okay, well, we need to go back. Let's save for a second. I'm safe. We go fast travel. Okay, so I guess the closet must be in here. Okay. Oh, there's the panel. There's a lot of feathers. Bracelet.
Wait, is this Mom's hair woven into a bracelet?
No pages, nothing about feathers. Okay. March 12th. I have done something terrible. I know I have to put it into words so I can remind myself of how bad I've been, of how completely I have destroyed someone else's autonomy. But I can never tell anyone. My hands are shaking as I write. I've taken Vivian's feather coat and hidden it somewhere so you'll never find it. 4 nights ago, she told me she was leaving the day after next with the rest of the swans. I lay in bed for the next 24 hours trying to figure out what I would say to her. And then at night I went to hide near the shore in Willow Creek Park. As soon as Vivian and the others shed their feathers and walked deeper into the woods, I crept out and stole her coat. And then I ran back to my house and locked it up. Then I went to go to meet her by the playground. I spent the whole night with her. I pretended that she would fly away the next morning. I cried and the tears were real. But when dawn came, she couldn't find her coat. The rest of her kind told her they had waited too long and flew away. But she couldn't, of course. I told her that it must have been the teenagers who come to the woods. I'd seen them creeping around on my way to meet her. Maybe they stole it, I said. She was more distraught than I have ever seen a living creature. She collapsed in the sand and keened. I was afraid that someone would hear, but no one did. So I stroked her long dark hair until she couldn't cry anymore. And then I carried her back to my house, wrapped her in a quilt, and laid her on the couch where she slept. When she woke up, I made her a cup of coffee and told her not to worry. I would help her find her coat. Then she said something that both thrilled me and made me feel deeply, deeply ashamed. I'll never be able to repay you for your kindness to me. For the past 2 days, she has eaten my food and slept in the bed next to me. She makes sure I take my medication. She tells me I'm her touchstone and her anchor. One day, I'd like to tell her what I did. I'll hope that she forgives me, but I can't tell her yet. This is all too good.
Oh, Lina.
Tell me this is a joke.
The feathers, the diary I just read? It's a tasteless joke, isn't it?
Have I ever been good at jokes?
No. But if it isn't a joke, then it's something else, and that... How can I confront that? My dad, the lunatic who actually thought his wife was something out of a fairy tale? And here you are, a scientist. Isn't it ironic?
Wait, please. Don't come to premature conclusions. This isn't the way I intended you to find out.
Then how were you planning on doing it? Over coffee and pastries?
Don't mock me. This may be easy for you, but when I saw you kneeling in front of that chest, I thought my heart was going to stop beating. I was so suddenly afraid.
So did mine, when I first saw it.
Which was why I didn't intend for you to find out this way. And yet you knew, somehow, to look here. I can tell, and now this thing, this secret, I don't have to keep it from you. Will you at least tell me how you knew to look here?
Vi told me. She knew about the chest. She'd found it before Mom disappeared.
Your sister? So she knows that But how? I suppose it doesn't matter, does it? I'm beginning to get the feeling that the four of you understand more than I realized. You're very observant, all of you. I guess that should make me proud. I see you have my journal. Did you read it? All of it?
Yes, I did.
At least you're honest about it. I don't think I can fault you for reading it. I would have done the same thing.
I want you to tell me. Here, now, without thinking about it or rereading the diary. What happened?
You have a right to ask that. But if you're hoping I'm going to recant what I wrote in that diary, you're mistaken. I'm not sure how aware you are of the way I've struggled all my life with my mental health. You probably knew, or guessed, that I was different from other children's fathers, but I don't know if you realized how different I know I don't talk about it much, because I didn't want you to realize that your father once heard and saw things he couldn't explain. That he would sometimes become convinced of things that couldn't be true. It's been a lifelong process, working with therapists and trying different combinations of medications to try and treat my delusions, but I swear, it's manageable now.
Whatever problems you had aren't important.
Maybe. Any problem that affects you is important. But I've tried so hard not to let that part of myself become the part you recognize. Lina, I want to ask you something now. I know we never talked about it. To be frank, I've never talked about it with any of you. But please tell me you believe I didn't harm your mother in any way.
Of course. I never thought that.
Thank you. I know that's what matters, not whether some asinine reporter thought I had... Never mind.
I do think she's gone, though. I can't believe she was a Swan Maiden, Dad. I just can't.
What do you think, then?
Do you really want to hear it?
I would always be curious, otherwise.
I think she killed herself.
Well, after all this, you have the entire story at your fingertips. It's your right to make a decision about what you think, even if it's one I know to be incorrect.
Yes, it is my right.
Then I suppose that now I can ask whether you'll ever forgive me for the way I've treated you and your siblings, for consistently hiding parts of my life from you and leaving the four of you alone so that I could retreat into my work, and ignoring you when you needed me most. I was trying to think of how to have that sort of discussion with you, but I was too much of a coward to do it. Now that you forced my hand... No, I shouldn't say it that way. What am I thinking?
Dad.
Now that everything else is out in the open, I'm telling you, I want to do better. And I'm hoping you can forget about all the mistakes I've made.
Yes. I forgive you.
Oh, thank God. Thank you, Lina. We got over it eventually, Lina and I. The diary, the chest, everything. Even though she said she forgave me, it wasn't until April that she really trusted me again. And I understand that. I do. That day in January when I saw her there in my room, I realized then how much I'd forced her to carry. After she graduated in June, she turned down her acceptance from the University of Chicago. I told her to think about it hard, but she just smiled gently and told me she wanted to stay closer to home anyway. She's taking classes at a community college now in psychology. She told me she wants to be a grief counselor someday. Wasn't what I'd envisioned for her, but I'm very proud. Back in January, she told me she thought her mother had killed herself. I argued with her then because I was lonely and I was tired. I try to remember the days when I met Vivian, and they seem hazy, like a heat mirage. Whatever the case, I've realized since then that I was loved. To think of how I came to be loved is, perhaps, to miss the point. I don't know what happened to my wife. None of us do. And I don't think we ever will. But we've filled that emptiness with each other. Maybe, just maybe, that will be enough.
Okay.
There were 3 old gypsies came to our hall door. They came brave and boldly, oh, and the one sang high and the other
Interesting. So that,
sang low, and the
I
other
guess, is one outcome, and then I might have to try and play through it again and make some different decisions. So, well, I guess it all comes down to what you choose in the end. In the end, depending on what Lina decides to say that she believes. And there might be a different outcome. I don't know. But yeah, I don't, unless you guys kind of want me to try and play through it again and choose some different options. I'm not planning on playing it through, at least not on camera again. But it was kind of interesting. I was pretty caught up in the story, actually. But but it's a very open ending, isn't it? I kind of like the idea that she was a swan, and that sounds like it, because then if she wasn't, who was the mom and what happened to her? And yeah, that can be some scary thoughts when you think about it that way. Yeah, it kind of brings up a lot of thoughts in one's head, especially if you yourself or someone you know are struggling with different kinds of mental health issues. Then all the stuff with the dad can bring up a lot of thoughts. Anyway, I think it was a quite interesting story actually. It's a little short, but I kind of liked it. Yeah, I hope you guys did too, and yeah, be sure to leave a like and a comment, and yeah, let me know what you thought about it, and if you've played it yourself. It doesn't seem like a lot of people actually know about this game. I hadn't really, I kind of found it by accident, I think during the summer sale or something. I stumbled onto it and thought, that sounds interesting. But it hasn't gotten that many reviews, so I don't think a lot of people know about it. Either way, take care everyone, and happy gaming!